The Joel Fernandez Show is a talk show channeled spontaneously from source to edify and help raise the vibrations of truthers, starseeds, Christic alchemists, and others who have seen through this illusionary matrix into messianic consciousness by discussing hidden knowledge, higher dimensions, and manifesting so that we can shine our light for everyone to see and co-create the earth that we know we actually deserve to live in. Don't! I gotta go! I'm working on the show!
Here we go.
Welcome back to the Joel Fernandez Show. I'm Joel Fernandez, and today I'm just enjoying a summer smoothie. It's an amazing summer day. If you want the recipe for that, you can check it out up here. And actually, if you check that out, that's my other channel where I post all kinds of vegan recipes, so you can check that out too. Raise your vibe, get clean, and put that life in you, lose that appetite for bloodshed and death, and then you're only going to manifest life. But today, I've got some blank canvases up on the wall, and we're going to see. I'm going to paint one of those today, walk you guys through it, have a good old chat, and we're going to have some fun in this episode. So, here's two amazing vibes. So good. Well, welcome to Studio B, guys. This is where I do a lot of my art that's not computer based. And I also play my music here. And I also got my fruit down here just so it doesn't get bad in the heat. And all my grains are right here as well. Right under the piano so they can pick up that amazing 432 hertz frequency. I know people is gonna think me weird, but that's okay because I'm all about raising that vibration, no matter where that takes me, right? So yeah, that's where it's at. But now we're just gonna lift this veil right here. Ooh, and we've got our art station. That is where we are gonna be painting all our stuff. Good stuff. So I'm just gonna set up the camera here, and we're probably gonna do a speed lapse for this one. Oh, look at that. We already got the canvas set up and we're ready to go. I decided I'm gonna work with this one. I already sketched off. This one actually came to me in a dream, an amazing dream, but won't go into that right now, maybe later. But I'm just gonna get started on painting right away. Got my smoothie here, and I'm gonna just put on some music and just have a good old summer afternoon. All right.
Let's get going.
All right, so that's looking pretty good. I'm just gonna let that dry so that I can come back and do the second coat later. But my smoothie is all done. So I've got some watermelon chilling in the fridge. So I'm gonna enjoy some of that and then I'll be back to finish up on this painting. All right, so we got our big bowl of watermelon that was just chilling in the fridge. And it is one of the best watermelons I've had all year, guys. This is great. Summer's here. And you know what? I'm going to sit out on the porch and enjoy this bad boy. Yeah, watermelon. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. This is so good. It's cold, it's crisp, it's super sweet and juicy. On a day like today, it's just perfect. So good. And watermelon really is one of the most energizing foods. I remember when I was raw vegan, I would just eat like fruit all day. And then there was times when, like some days I would push through and instead of doing a fast, the next best thing was just to eat watermelon. And on the days I just ate watermelon, like I could eat like maybe 2 small ones or maybe like almost one of the whole ones. And that was my food for the whole day. But those were the days I had the most energy and it was just like super clean. Like you didn't feel bogged down, but you got all the sugar and all the hydration you needed, all the electrolytes. Really, watermelon is great for rehydration. Those were the most intensive, energetic days when I was raw vegan. Amazing stuff. Watermelon is the way to go. And not only is it hydrating, but it's also super cleansing. Like it can get you super clean. Not like that guy. But no judgment, man. No judgment. Just keep shining that light, and the darkness will be exposed. You know, we're not fighting the darkness. We're just shining light. That's where our true power lies. And that's how we're going to conquer in this new era. So good. So good. Well, I think I've had enough of this. There's still some left, so I'm going to throw that back in the fridge. I got a bit of work to do back at the computer, so I'm going to get that done. But I'm going to check back with you guys once I'm ready to paint again. Alright guys, I'm back. I just got all that work done on my computer, and we are ready to put on the final touches on this painting. So, let's get right into it, shall we? Oh, I also got some blueberries to snack on. Let's get right into it, shall we? Alright, so I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. So yeah, like I literally saw this painting in a dream I had. Then, I just painted it out. That's just the way these things go. So yeah, had fun painting that. It's been an amazing day, a beautiful summer day, and just, relaxing, enjoying life, and yeah, just bringing my talents into the world. That's what it's all about. Because when you're living your hobby and making a living doing your hobby, man, nothing compares to that. Nothing. And that's what Source wants for all of us. So I'm going to let this dry and I'm going to see you guys back in the studio. You know what? I didn't even finish my blueberries. I was so caught up in the painting. So I'm going to finish that and get right back to the studio. All right, we are back in the studio. And yeah, you can see the blank spot on the wall where I'm going to be hanging up that picture. But once it's dry, I'm just going to mask the edges with some black gesso just to get it all nice and neat like the other ones. And yeah, it's going to go right up there. And I'm going to be getting the next painting ready as well. I've got a bunch of paintings, but this wall is for my smaller ones. But really, a lot of artwork's coming out right now. Now that the renovations are done, I'm just redecorating the whole place with new art because we're moving into a new era. And as I move into this new era, the art has to exemplify the new state of being that we're in. My window's open because, man, today is an amazing day. But you could probably hear the birds chirping. It's summer, guys, and I'm enjoying the weather. I'm just taking it all in. But I wanted to share something that I've recently found out, and it's in relation to, what we've experienced over the last year or so. But we've got to really take it into perspective and really own the fact of what we've been through and what we've come out of so that we can actually face the system and really build a new system. That's what it's all about. That's what this new era of doing things is really going to accomplish. But we have to own it and we got to be honest with ourselves as to what we've experienced, what kind of manipulation has been thrown at us, and just how can we really break past that? Because if we don't admit that first step, we won't be able to break out of it. But did you guys know that there's a prison system called the separate system? And this system exists outside of the regular prison system. And it was first developed when the British Empire was reducing capital punishment. And they were debating, what do we do with the hardened criminals? Well, in fact, a prison was built in Port Arthur in Tasmania, down by Australia there. And this was constructed in 1850s. And so it wasn't all that long ago. But in this design, they made this facility for the most hardened criminals. And it was all about cultivating depersonalization. So what happened here? Well, the prisoners were nameless. There was no talking allowed. They spent all their time in their homes, in their cells, except for 1 hour a day when they would be allowed to come out for essential services and exercise. But when they came out, they had to cover their faces and they were prevented from approaching each other. So basically social distancing. But there's nothing social about that, am I right? Now on Sundays and on evenings, they were permitted to read religious texts and they were allowed to attend church. But at church, everyone was in a cubicle with a partition between them and the others. So all they could see was the preacher. This was all done so that there was no transmission of information between the prisoners. So basically, they were fed whatever the system wanted them to see. And even then, it was controlled in this way. So even if individuals knew otherwise, they weren't allowed to communicate amongst themselves. And all this time, it was believed that this would flatten the curve. The curve of what? The curve of criminal behavior. But instead, high levels of insanity broke out. So much so that they had to build insane asylums next to these prisons. And in our day, we see this, in the form of halfway houses because of the need to repersonalize and integrate someone back into society that's been depersonalized. The old adage from King Solomon, Ein kol chadash tahat hashamesh. There's nothing new under the sun. Now, in our modern time, with the pandemic, mental crises have risen, but no one in the mainstream media is talking about it. They're only talking about stats of infection and the stats about the vaccine. Suicide rates are through the roof. Substance abuse and overdoses are at atrocious levels. Unemployment is at a ridiculous high. In Canada where, we wouldn't even dream of being unemployed, and now people don't want to leave their unemployment because they're getting money for free. And there's a desperation in society to return to normal. Even though they were saying, this is the new normal, now they're saying get the jab so that we can go back to normal. This is double speak. And after 16 months of imprisonment, even the concept of returning to anything close to normal is mentally challenging for people. A lot of people are dealing with lockdown Stockholm syndrome, where they've gotten so used to the constraints and the lockdown mandates that they can't imagine a world outside of it, and they're still going to be that way after all this is lifted and revealed for what it really is. These 16 months have scarred people, and they need to know the truth, and I mean the truth, in source, in the living logos, in the power that is above all powers, literally the manifested Christ in Jesus. Because the majority of people just bowed to fear. They didn't even ask questions. Especially with the groups that were trying to help people, trying to help society from the inside out, that were deemed unessential. Nobody fought for them, and we were pushed to the brink. And you can see this because when it came to churches, it was no big deal, but people didn't have a problem standing in line in Costco a couple hours, 400 people deep, just to get in. That materialism was so pervasive that it just continued on, even despite the lockdown. You look at those people that won't be able to break out of the restrictions even after this whole thing is lifted. But think about the other end of the spectrum. You have people chomping at the bit to become party hardy again. And hedonism is just what it seems that people have been longing after. I mean, now with the restrictions just released in Alberta, you go downtown and you see people drinking, people standing in line, getting all their stuff, doing all their shopping, all this stuff. And the Calgary Stampede. We're seeing all this character just being exposed for what it really was. It was under the surface before this, but now it's just being pushed to the front. And for those of us that are taking a stand for truth, for taking a stand for light and life and justice, it's never been about popularity. And Source doesn't need a lot of people to get the job done. But the mission has always been to stand at the gates of hell and redirect traffic. The mission never changes through good times or the worst times. So I know it's tough. I know we've faced a lot of pushback and a lot of that character development that we've been forced to go through, but it's for our own good, and we're experiencing something that Source has in store for us that's just astronomical, and we are accelerating at an exponential level. Those of us that are on board, that are on the leading edge, leading this society, being the truth individually, is what will allow us to bring that truth out and allow others to see our light. Even if it's just a few people at first, it's going to accelerate because light always overpowers darkness. You just have to go into a dark room and flick on the light switch and you see that happen. The darkness doesn't run out of the way and retreat to the corners. No, it simply doesn't exist in the space of light. And that's what we're bringing to the world. So stay optimistic, guys, because we are the light, and we are bringing this new era into fruition, downloading the kingdom of heaven into this physical earth plane, and being the change that we actually want to see in the world, and bringing that utopia that we know we're deserving of, that we know we've come here in this lifetime to experience all along. So let's do it, not just for ourselves, but for future generations, and really make this time in history a real story to tell the grandkids. With that being said, I'm going to close this show out. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I really do. I'll check you in the next video. Joel signing out once again. Agape, salaam, namaste. Hotep.